Hi, my name is Jennifer Palmer, and I'm the owner of Nourishing Journey. I spent many years dealing with chronic health concerns, and I used to be a computer programmer, and I was told that my health concerns were pretty much the way it was going to be the rest of my life. And I didn't really want to hear that. So I went on a mission trying to find anything and everything that could help me feel better. And not just me, it was for my family too. And I did find some answers. And honestly, I feel better now than I have ever felt my entire life. You can feel this too. People that you know and love can feel this. You can heal. The body knows how to heal. We just need to know how to unlock it. And while none of us have all the answers, many of us have many of the answers. There's many, many, many things you can do to help your body, mind, and spirit. So we're just here to give you some of the different answers. We hope that you enjoy these roundtables. We're going to be covering a lot of different topics. And the goal is just to try to help you see that there's possibilities. But if you think that we can be of service to you, and if there's any way that we can help you, there are links in the description where you can contact us. And we hope to hear from you soon. Enjoy. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are going to have a roundtable on detoxification. And I want to introduce you to our wonderful experts on detox. And I'm going to start with Karan.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Karan Almond. And so I'm an oral systemic consultant, but I also do detox. I'm a certified detox, cellular and dental detox practitioner. So I work with people who are having amalgams removed, but people who are also having toxicity issues from other things like biotoxins, general toxins. I also do a gut reset reseed program, and I work with BioResonance and human design.
Excellent. All right, Dolores.
Hi, I'm Dolores Drexel, and I am the IV infusion therapist here at Nourishing Journey. I offer several services from hydration all the way over to other services that complement all of the other services that are provided at Nourishing Journey.
Excellent. And Scarlett.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scarlett Davis. I am a licensed medical esthetician, and I also am a Reiki practitioner. My goal here is to bring inner and outer beauty together. And the way that I do that and how I fit into the whole Nourishing Journey way of doing things is really I provide support for all the detox programs in the center, which is to help clean out the skin on the outside. That is the first place where things show up. So I perform different types of facial treatments without medication and more of a different type of approach. I do also hair, scalp health hair treatments that come sometimes as a result of toxins in the body, medication, different types of things, hormone changes, stress related. So that is my focus there. And my areas of expertise are acne, hyperpigmentation, and scalp therapy.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we thought it was a good idea to get together and talk about detoxification because sometimes people think they're detoxing if they just do like one simple service and they're done for the year, right? But it's so much deeper. So I want to get into some of the nuts and bolts about why we need to detox, what is detox, and how do we do it appropriately and effectively on the cheap, or when you really want to dive in and spend good money to make it happen and to really get great results, right? So let's go and talk about like, why do we need detox? Because the body's supposed to detox, right? So
yes.
Why do we need it? Why do we need to support the body? What happens?
Well, I think now we need it more than ever because we're just inundated from every which way, the water, the food, the air. I was reading a couple of weeks ago that the average American is taking in about a credit card's worth of plastics through what they're breathing in the air.
Oh,
So, I mean, that to me, that speaks volumes. That's just one thing. And you know, when you talk about the concept of the toxin bucket, even babies now, the last I read, I think it's more now, but the last I read, there were 272 toxins found in cord blood in babies born in America. we don't have the same regulations with some of the chemical toxins and pesticides that some of the other more developed countries have as well. So we're really inundated from basically in utero on now. And to be honest with you, I think that every mother or father who's planning on having a child should be looking at the toxin scores of the mother before they get pregnant. If they really want, because a lot of times, you get pregnant and then you're out there and you're like, well, now I'm going to like really do a good diet and I'm going to take all these vitamins. But those things, if you're clogged up with toxins, sometimes you can't even utilize what you're taking in terms of nutrition and the supplements. That's my take on it.
Yeah. And sometimes people can't even get pregnant because they're so full of toxins. They have a really hard time conceiving.
Yes.
And then also the firstborn, to those mothers who have a lot of toxicity, when they are able to get pregnant, they pass a lot of those toxins on to their unborn and soon to be born child. And then they've got to struggle with the toxins. So absolutely. Absolutely. The best time to detox is way before you get pregnant.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the toxin bucket, right? So I want to talk more about the toxin bucket. Like, why does it seem like some people have a bigger bucket than others and they're able to handle more? And why are some people able to empty their buckets pretty regularly and easily while some can't?
Oh, so I mean, I talk about that a lot in the program that I do, which is kind of a full program. But if you think about when a baby's born, ideally their toxin bucket is very low, but now we know they have some toxins in it. And then the toxins, there's kind of like this cyclic thing that happens with the toxins. So there's three general, in my world, I talk about three general types of toxins. There's biotoxins, heavy metals, and general toxins. And almost everything that's a toxin is going to fall into one of those categories. And that's the testing that I do to kind of figure out what you're dealing most with. Is it one, or do you have multiple types of toxins? And so we know that when we're inundated with these toxins, it disturbs our methylation pathway. So that's just one pathway, but it's a major pathway that's involved with the liver and a whole lot of very complicated biochemical processes that, don't ask me to explain it. Most doctors can't even explain that whole process unless they work with that all the time. But that process is designed, the body is actually designed to get rid of these toxins. It's brilliantly designed to do it. But once you get to a certain point, a level of toxins, your body's going to hit critical mass and you're going to start having some symptoms. And then those symptoms continue to build because as you're having the symptoms, there's other biochemical things that's going on in the body that is disrupting your detox pathways, which are your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your skin. I missed one. Oh, and your gut. How can I?
Right.
So all of those things are detox pathways. And if any one is clogged, then there are certain things that are going to happen. I'm sure Scarlett has seen this because a lot of people have MTHFR, which means that their methylation pathway is going to be blocked and not working properly, and you're not going to detox properly. So those toxins have to go somewhere. If your gut's not working properly, the next place it's going to come out is on your skin. And so I don't know. What do you see, Scarlett?
Absolutely. I think it is almost like overload. It has to seep out somehow. The body is going to extract it. And the skin is a life porous tissue that is open. And so it's going to come out in a way that is going to be either very aggressive. It's going to show up in the form of really dry skin, patchy skin, breakouts. Oftentimes the doctors label those things as contact dermatitis, and that's just a simple term for I don't know what you have, but let's throw some medications your way and see which one is going to hit the mark. And so that the skin also shows up with a lot of acne and breakouts. And so I'm kind of like, whatever you guys do, everything that you guys do, I'm kind of the plow. You guys remove the things that come up to the surface, and I come in with my little plow and remove all that stuff so that the body can continue to regenerate itself, as well as I'm doing now the foot baths, which I think is a great way to detox the body. You're doing it this way. And so that's my thing. So I'm the cleaner. I'm going to come in and clean up everything you guys are doing.
That's funny.
Job.
Well, it's interesting too, as a colon hydrotherapist, I've had many people come to me and tell me that they do colon hydrotherapy because their skin clears up when they do it. So that gut connection is huge. I totally agree that if your gut's not working right, it's going to come out your skin, and you're going to have all kinds of other issues. But yeah, I love that. I love it. And it's funny because when you think about like the sources of toxins, I know that both Dolores and Karan have a lot of experience with the dentistry side of things. And there's a lot of different toxins that go along with dentistry in the medical community as well. Yeah, right. So we don't need to get into too many specifics, but I'm just curious, Dolores, when you're looking at it through the lens of IV therapy, what would you recommend for somebody who's got a lot of toxicity?
Detoxing the liver and kidneys is probably a really crucial aspect because those are the body filters. So getting them detoxed and cleansed out, then that allows them to open up and function properly to work on detoxing the rest of the body. So I do have IVs that can help with the kidney and liver detoxification.
And what kind of nutrients are those?
The liver has glutathione, NAC, taurine, and ALA,
Nice.
which is the alpha lipoic acid. And then for the kidneys, that one, give me 1 second. Kidneys.
While she's looking for that,
Yeah, go for it.
my sickest, and like I didn't know I had. I mean, I would just have barely found out I had Lyme disease. I didn't know all the things back then because I still had my conventional nursing hat on, and but I was going 3 times a week for IV therapy because I couldn't function without it. I was so toxic, and now I really don't even think that. I don't know. My opinion is that Lyme is very opportunistic. And when your terrain is very acidic, it just makes a nice place for them to hang out, and you're not flushing out all those toxins. And so I was going 3 times a week for IV therapy, and it really did. It helped a lot because it's all I could do back then. It's a great flush.
Well, I know like one of the things that I had to do, well, I was really sick too. I had a lot of different health concerns and it was all related to toxicity. And I had to get my amalgams removed. I had to eat organic. I had to switch over to everything natural in my home because I was so chemically sensitive that the slightest exposure would make me sick and then I'd have to go to bed. So yeah, I mean, there are so many different places we're getting these toxins, and my bucket was so overloaded that I definitely was spilling out all over the place and probably leaving like stains behind me as I walked through the home, oh, there's more of my toxic chemicals, as I'm walking around my house because it was so bad. But so Dolores, what did you find out about the kidneys? The kidney
B6 the B complex, B6 amino acids with a glutathione push.
Nice.
Yeah, and glutathione is really good for so many things. Really, really is.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute,
kidney.
because that is one of the big things that doctors do try to push as soon as you realize you're having detoxification issues. It's glutathione's a big one. So what do you notice about glutathione? What's the point of it? What does it do? Karan, why don't you answer that? Go ahead.
Well, your liver's supposed to make glutathione. Glutathione is a funny thing. Like some people do really well with it and some people not as well. If you're having issue with sulfur, you may not do as well with the glutathione because not only do you have to get the glutathione in, but the cell has to take it up. And then it does this crazy thing where it spits it back out and then it takes it up again. So there's this whole process that has to happen at the cellular level with the glutathione. So for people who are incredibly blocked, and they have all these methylation issues and their cellular membrane is kind of impaired with the receptors being blunted, they may not take it up as well. But I know that the IV glutathione seems to be better taken up for people than the oral. I don't know. Do you know much about that, Dolores, in terms of the difference between the IV and the oral form of glutathione?
like the liposomal, no, I don't. No, I don't. I just know that, glutathione shuttles the NH3 residues, which is, kind of helps clear out that ammonia from the body.
Yeah.
But I don't know
And
if
that's another huge thing with people with gut issues is they get a lot of build up.
right.
Don't know exactly what's going on there.
Yeah. Not sure. But, that type of a kidney IV would be helpful to kind of eliminate some of that ammonia from the body.
Yeah,
Particularly if somebody is heavy metal toxic and they're pulling a lot of metal out, they can damage the kidneys if the load is too much.
Right.
So like if somebody, like I did a DMSA 6-hour challenge test in 2019, stupidly, I should not have done it, but I thought the doctors kind of had that all figured out and metals, and I had some kidney issues after that. So I would recommend anybody who's going to do a DMSA challenge that they also do some IV flushing with it.
Yeah. That would be like the NAC.
One thing that,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to
Scarlett.
say one thing that I have found is that the body, once it's functioning really well, it sends all its soldiers to kind of clean things around the body and make sure that every part of our body is functioning properly. The last place that is going to send nutrients and assistance to is going to be the scalp, because it's almost secondary to what it needs to do. So it kind of, the body itself kind of cleans and works on the body itself by order of importance. And the hair is not going to be the most important thing. So it's not going to send those nutrients. It's not going to send that oxygen and all that other things that your hair needs to be growing. So the thing that I have found is when I do my hair treatments, I look at the condition of the scalp. People develop dandruff. They develop these, I'm going to say, lesions and a lot of buildup on the scalp, and their scalp is almost white, where there's zero circulation coming up to the surface of that. And then, they'll use all type of topicals to try to mitigate the problem, but it's not. It's in fact making it worse. And so what I do is I unclog each one of the hair follicles with my machine to suction out whatever is keeping it so that you can keep that circulation moving. And that tends to work really well with helping to prevent some of that hair loss as you're working through your entire detoxing process. So, scalp treatments are going to be able to help you get rid of some of that stuff that's kind of stagnant and get things moving around in your hair. So it could be that there's other issues that are creating your hair loss, not so much only stress, but the body does go under stress when it's clogged up. So it's all encompassing.
Yeah,
You make a really good point too about how the body, because once that toxin bucket gets full, the body has to sacrifice something. And I tell my dental clients all the time, your body will sacrifice your teeth. You can live without your teeth. And always drink
one of the
liquid.
first to go. That's what happens
with
pregnant women.
I'm sorry.
That happens in pregnancy. A lot of women end up losing their teeth because the body pulls the minerals from the teeth.
I remember how much decay we would see with breastfeeding moms, So yeah, the body will sacrifice. So I had never thought about the scalp though. I had a girlfriend had a huge bald spot, like her hair was long so she could cover it, but I think it took her about 2 years to get her hair grown back, and I'm convinced it was toxicity for her.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Never thought about that.
Me either.
well, and Scarlett, I brought up the issue about circulation, which made me think of lymphatics too. And lymphatics, your lymph system gets so clogged so easily. What do you guys recommend to help get lymphatic moving?
Well, I'll tell you what I do in the treatment room. I do have a lymphatic drainage facial that I do. Now, we all have a lymphatic system, but there isn't necessarily a pump that is constantly pumping things out. So the lymph nodes just kind of get full, and we have them all over. And so whenever I can do lymphatic drainage on the body, but as well, this is kind of like where we start moving things around. People get that puffiness, and you want to get those toxins or the lymph fluid moving, because you can get infections, you can get certain things, and then sometimes those lymph nodes become clogged up, that they just become hardened and you can't get them out. So I perform a lymphatic drainage uh, facial within my own treatments that I do as well. So you can manually do it. So I can do that for you. And as a matter of fact, I do that for post surgery clients who have gone through plastic surgery. Because they end up building a lot of fat. So if they're getting liposuction or different things like that, the body just has a way of retaining some of that fluid, and I can help work that out into the ports where you should be draining naturally. If you're doing it on the regular basis, you're kind of training your body to start moving things around. So I do offer that sort of thing.
Do
Nice.
you offer that for patients that have had breast surgery from breast cancer and things like that?
I have not done former breast cancer patients. I would have to look into that a little more. I always what if I've had anybody that's had some serious item like that, if they have to just get clearance from their doctor, just like if they've had plastic surgery or whatever, if the doctor says it's okay for us to go ahead and do, then I do move forward with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have other manual lymphatic drainage practitioners too that have also worked on people as well with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's really important stuff. What else? What else do you guys recommend for people to get their lymphatics going?
Movement, dry skin brushing.
Mm-hmm.
Red root's amazing for lymphatics.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really movement. You know, we're so sedentary. I mean, I do it frequently with my dental clients post-surgery because they get a lot of like sinus and congestion. And the first thing before I say call the doctor, I'm like, have you done some lymphatic drainage? Because you may just have some things that are very clogged up. And I'd say about 60% of the time, it's helpful for them. And the rest of them, I send them BioResonance, and the 15% we can't fix, we send back to the dentist.
Yeah, yeah. And I also say, I like the trampoline a lot too. Anything you can do that, where you're jumping and you're going against gravity, it helps move the lymphatics. The ionic foot bath is really good to help move lymphatic, and as well
The
as
sauna, could they pop
sauna.
in the sauna? Mm-hmm.
That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah, it's all good stuff. Anything you can do to increase circulation will get things starting to move. But I know with me, when I was at my sickest, my lymphatic was so stuck. Like nothing was moving. And I still sometimes I have to really work at it and get things moving. And but my cells also could not spit out toxins, and they couldn't absorb nutrition. I felt so blocked up in all different kinds of ways. How do you recommend people, if they're in that kind of state where they're not absorbing correctly, their cells aren't pulling in the nutrition it needs, and they're also not detoxifying, the cells are so stuck? Like, where do they begin? Because I know there are a lot of people that come here, and we have doctors and people that, get sent here from their practitioners. And, they're complex. It's very difficult. And not that we can give medical advice, but if someone just feels stuck, they don't know where to go, what things maybe they've tried aren't working. Maybe they don't feel well enough to do jumping on a trampoline and getting the lymphatics going, or even doing a major detox, because when you're that sick, the littlest bit of detox, you get sicker, right? So you have the whole upstream versus downstream, and I know, Karan, you've talked about that previously, but why don't you talk about that again now, in case somebody new is watching? Talk about the upstream versus downstream, and why we need to start with the downstream to get things moving.
Okay. And if I could go back just a little bit. So when somebody is really stuck like that, I think about what are the root causes? Like, how do we get, because I was very much into germ theory. That's how I was trained as a nurse. And I had Lyme disease, and I spent years tackling it that way, and nothing got better until I started working on terrain. And, there's a lot of marketing that goes into health, and we have to be aware of what's marketing and what really works. So when you start thinking cause, there's two things that run the body. There's your cells, and there's the organisms in the body. They really do. And electricity, because of the nervous system. But cells make up the nervous system. So we defer to cells and the organisms. So on the cellular side, these toxins really attack the cellular membrane, and the cellular membrane has receptors in it. And when they're blunted, they cannot take up the nutrients in the way they're supposed to. And that doesn't mean every cell in the body, because when you think about the cells, you have cells that make up organ systems. So whatever is going on in that organ system and whatever nutrients that that organ system needs to create the biochemical processes that it needs to keep the body in a state of homeostasis, those are the cells that will be more impaired. So, and then inside the cell, you have the nucleus, which is your genetics. And when those toxins get into the cell, it can turn on your potential for disease because that's where that resides. So when that happens, you start turning on all of this craziness in the body where it's almost like this domino effect. And you start with a couple of symptoms, and then the next thing you know, some of us end up really critically ill with chronic illness with no real diagnosis that there's a treatment for. And so we're suffering in that way. So I look at the cells, and then the other piece to me that is as critical, if not even more so, is the organisms that are in the gut. If we've ever taken even one round of antibiotics, if we've ever eaten a processed food, just that alone. I mean, you can add in stress, taking pharmaceuticals, and all kinds of things that disturb the biome. And also your diet. If you change your diet, you will change your biome. The problem is that with the marketing, it's like, well, take all of these probiotics, but there's a lot to know. And this isn't about that. We've done a gut roundtable, but anybody who's interested in the organism side of that, I would go look at the roundtable we did on gut. In terms of the detox and the cellular health, the theory that I go on is that if the cells aren't functioning, then we can do downstream detox, but there's two types of streams of detox. You have your circulating toxins. So everything's coming in, it's circulating. But as we said, the body will sacrifice whatever it needs to survive. And one of the ways that it lowers the circulating toxins is it parts them in any fatty tissue. So people who have a lot of adipose tissue, those fat cells will just get larger and larger, and sometimes you'll create new ones, and they hold a lot of toxins. So when people go to lose weight, a lot of times they don't feel well, and they think it's because they're dieting or exercising, but it's actually because they're releasing a lot of toxins into the body because they're dropping weight too fast. You may have heard the term keto flu. A lot of times when people keto, they get the keto flu, it's toxin issue. And so I don't suggest people start keto right out the gate when they're that sick. I don't even suggest people really start a strenuous diet of any kind, even for health. I do suggest eliminating certain foods that are toxic, but it's too much for the body with someone who's as sick as what you're talking about. So I feel like opening up the detox pathways is the first thing that you need to do. After removing as many sources of toxins as you can. And I don't mean the kind of go through your house and the baby with the bathwater kind of thing. It's too stressful, and stress is a toxin. So you got to kind of move slow. And then after you work on the cells and opening up the detox pathways, then you can move into getting the downstream toxins out. And then once you've done that, then you can move into the upstream toxins. And that's going to either be in the adipose tissue. And if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of adipose tissue, you're probably going to store those toxins in the fatty tissue of the brain, the myelin sheath. Some of the organs, like people who have consumed a lot of synthetic oils, they frequently develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Because the liver will create these fat cells in order to take up these toxins and just store them and hold them in that fat. And we find that a lot too with people with thyroid issues. When we get into a true detox, a lot of times people are able to see the doctor, get tested, and lower their thyroid medications because it actually is not a thyroid production problem. It's a thyroid hormone uptake problem in the cells. So I've been thyroid medication free for 8 months, and I have been trying for years to get off. So I've been really happy with that.
Yeah, it took me years to get off as well, but I've been hormone free for a long time as far as taking medication. Right. Yeah.
When you say where does somebody start, you have to consider their logistical, their financial, their emotional. There's a lot of things to take into consideration about where you suggest somebody start. Somebody who's never done detox before, they may not be ready for what I do because it's a commitment. It's probably going to be at least 6 months for most people. I do a toxin score, both objective and subjective testing. And that's really what guides what I suggest people do. But when they're not ready for that, just working on the downstream toxins with a lot of these other therapies is where I would start. And then once people start to feel a little bit better, they're like, I might want to really like dive into this and make this big commitment.
Yeah, I think, one of the first things I usually tell people to do when I'm working with them on detox is you've got to stop as much as you can without living in a bubble, but you want to stop the toxins from coming in, whatever's easiest or wherever the biggest issues are. So, if it's the food you're eating, start finding things that are less toxic, or, wherever it is. Some people can't because maybe like me, I know like hairstylists, they're subjected to a lot of different toxins. Some of the worst foot baths I've ever seen have been people who do hair or people who eat out all the time. Like if they travel a lot or they, they're always having to eat at restaurants, those are the worst foot baths I see. And, you can't always not do that. I know one of the people I was talking to, they're in management and they're constantly traveling and they have to for their job. So then it's a matter of, okay, well, where are you eating? And are there healthier options? And, then if you can't buy organic, what are you going to eat? What are you going to do? Right. Because if you're not buying organic, grass-free, free range, and, all the higher quality foods, even then there's going to be toxins involved, but there's less chances and less opportunities to have toxin exposure. But like if you're in a restaurant, what do? Because all the lettuce has got stuff all over it. They're using aluminum foil, which is awful for us, and then the preservatives and pesticides and food colorings and just all the nonsense in our foods that are killing us slowly. Right. I don't know, but that's usually what I say first. Where are your toxins coming from and how can you reduce those exposures? And the skin is one of the biggest organs. It is the biggest organ we have. And it's one of the ways we get in a lot of the toxins we get in is through the products that we use. And so I'm just curious what you guys would say about like lifestyle. Where do you see the biggest toxins coming from? You can't control all the air you're breathing or when, you have to leave the house, you can't live in a bubble. So where do you think some of the biggest exposures are that people could more easily reduce?
Well, I can go. I mean, for me, it's super quick and easy, honestly. The environment really does pose a lot of damage on people's skin. A lot of the times, also, one of you guys was talking about the media or self-prescription or self-prescribed products. A lot of the times, people create problems in their skin by self-prescribing based on someone's recommendation on social media. Influencers are great to influence, but they're really not trained one-on-one to recommend things that people need based on what you have. They just kind of do what works well for them. And so you may have someone who has excellent, fabulous skin who is using baby oil on their skin, and someone who has very acne prone skin are going to go ahead and use baby oil, not realizing that baby oil is going to sit on the skin like saran wrap and block anything from going in and going out. So it's really just information. And I think a lot of it to do, I mean, the way that I see it in my practice is I tell people there's two things to success. One is patience, and the other one is consistency. And if you're patiently and consistently working on yourself, you're going to get there. But you can't take everything that you see online at face value. So that's one of the biggest things that I see here. Some people, if they don't know what it's affecting them. I have a lot of people that can't do dairy, that that once they stop their dairy, then their acne pretty much comes to a halt. So it's working with them one-on-one. So for me, my biggest issue is self-prescribing things that sound good, but they're not necessarily good for you.
I think it's an interesting time that we live in because we are bombarded with information all over the place. And at the same time, there's so much, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say ignorance about what's really causing the deeper issues within. And so whether we're going to a doctor's office or we're going to the supermarket or we're going to a friend's house or we're watching something online, how do we even know what's right anymore? Because the vast majority of the time we're getting wrong information all the way around.
Yeah. And because of that, I developed a divine tip of the day that I post on my Instagram story, where I target specific things like what is a retinol? How should you use it? When should you use it? And I go like very basic little tiny tidbits because information is power, and they are leaving. Because I used to do that. I had a lot of self-inflicted acne as a kid. We're all leaving a lot of information that we're just taking the shortcut. So I do these tiny little tidbits of information, and it's just bite-sized pieces. And a lot of the times people don't know what they're putting on their skin. I had a client the other day who he's like, I'm having these issues with my skin, and we looked, and he was using. And I asked him, I said, do you know what the main ingredient is? And he's like, no. And I mentioned linseed oil, and he's like, oh, I use that as a paint thinner to clean my brushes. And that is what he's been using. But a lot of people don't know, again, it's just all awareness.
Yeah, I used that a lot when I was a teenager. That was big back in the 80s.
You used to clear up your nostrils because it was so strong, but it's linseed oil. That is the main ingredient.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, so I'm grateful that we have so many wonderful people here at Nourishing Journey where we can discuss these things with, I think, a better degree of aptitude than probably even a lot of other practitioners. We've been in these trenches, and we've walked the walk, and we've had these experiences where we've had to recover ourselves and what we've gone through. And I guess when you're talking about therapies that can help, I think that's a big thing in someone who might be watching this. Well, what can they do? Especially if they're just starting or they don't really know. There's so many different things. So things that people can do on their own, as long as they're not too sick and don't need a lot of support. Fasting is really good, intermittent fasting. That helps the body, really recover. And one of the things that I know Karan likes to talk about is I always say this wrong.
Well, some say autophagy and some say autophagy.
Yeah. So I always go back and forth in my mind. I'm like, I don't know which way to say that, because I've heard it different ways. But like that's really important. The recovery of the cells, giving your body the chance to clean house. When we're eating all the time, the body will digest before it cleanses, and it doesn't always take the time to really purify itself because we're always eating or we're always bombarded with toxins. And so when you fast, that's a really great way to help as well. But I remember when I first started fasting, I couldn't fast past dinner time. Like if I started in the morning, I would start to come down with the flu. I would feel really, really sick. And so learning how to fast correctly, doing it in stages, supporting the body, all really important. And there's different ways we can support the body. So IV therapy, I think, is huge. And I'm excited to get on one of those chairs behind you. I can't wait.
Me too.
Yes, I'm going to be there. But also doing things like the colonics to help, clear out the colon. I think that's really important. And ionic foot bath and infrared sauna and the PEMF, the pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, that really energizes the cells. So the cells have what they need to try to clear and cleanse and clean up. The manual lymphatic drainage, the facials, doing supplements and special diets, like it all really helps. And I remember the doctor I was seeing at the time, back when I was really trying to heal and I was stuck. One of the things that he said to me was that I had so many emotional traumas that my body could not heal. My traumas were the toxins that were blocking the cleanse. And so I also wanted to talk about that and your experiences with emotional traumas, being in the light of toxicity, toxic relationships, toxic memories and traumas and things. Like, what are your experiences with that?
Well, I really, during the time that I was sick, because it affected my brain, my behavior really changed a lot. And in order to heal, I had to really do some reverse engineering of my emotions and my story that I was telling myself about my illness. Because I had a story. Boy, did I have a story. I'd tell everybody. Anybody listen to me?
Don't we all? We all have a story, don't we? We're like, yes, these things.
And it's because I was suffering so much and I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't so much that I wanted sympathy or empathy, but I didn't want people to understand that I wasn't lazy and I wasn't making it up and I wasn't doing it on purpose. And when you're chronically ill and you go to the doctor, and they can't really find anything wrong. And maybe this test is a little bit off, but there's nothing clear defining it. Or they find something and they give you treatment and you feel worse. Maybe that thing feels better, but over here you're getting worse. And so I was just playing whack-a-mole with my symptoms. And I came to a point when the melanoma came in that I really had to do some personal inventory about my story and why I wasn't healing. And that's when I kind of went through what you went through, Jen. I learned that, oh, okay, there's something besides all the toxins and the Lyme disease and all that. It's what's going on internally. Like my whole body and being on the inside was completely cluttered from years of believing things that were not true, both myself and other people, believing things about health and illness that was not true. And so there's a lot of unwinding to do. And that's why I think healing is, I mean, I have a 5R system, and what I do, the first one is remove the source. The second one is regenerate the cellular membrane. The third one is to restore the mitochondrial function, because that's a huge one in energy. Like people think it's always adrenals. It might be your mitochondria are not turning on. The next one is to reestablish that methylation, which is the detox pathway that I talked about from the liver, and then to reseed the gut. And the last one is to resolve emotional blocks. And I almost sometimes feel like that one is as critical as the rest of it, because I've had clients go through and pay for the entire program, and I've seen their scores come down, but they don't really address the emotional stuff. And when they don't maintain their results. Mm-hmm. Clients I have who are doing some emotional work are seeming to maintain their results, and it costs them less in the long run to do maintenance if they address body, mind, emotions. That's my take on it. I think it's critical.
Yeah, I would say it's up there in line with number one. Removing the sources.
Yeah. Well, it is a source, right? So it's just an endogenous source. Yeah. So it's just and both are complicated. And you talk about, well, what do you start doing? I mean, okay, food is a huge one. But there really are just a few things. Like you can put it in categories to where you don't have to feel so restricted in what you eat. You just kind of have to learn how to read labels and try really hard not to eat things that have names of things on the label that you don't understand. If you can't pronounce it,
you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't eat it.
I mean, that's very true. But I would say, even like corn or potatoes or, certain fruits and vegetables that are genetically modified, you might think, oh, I can pronounce potato. I can go eat a potato. But if it's genetically modified, you're getting all the glyphosate and it's wrecking our guts. So, and causing all kinds of other problems. But,
but that's when we have to learn to read the barcode, because, and I can't, 9 numbers.
Yeah, it has a 9, yeah.
Non-GMO. So it needs to have, if it has 4 numbers, I think that it is conventional. If it's 9 numbers, I think, but you can look it up. There are numbers on the barcode that'll tell you if it's genetically modified or not.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, if you're just sure that you're buying organic and at the very least buying from a store that prefers to be health conscious, like, a health food store or something where they're proclaiming they have all organic or something like that, and if you don't feel like you're capable enough to figure that out, or you don't have the time to think about it, if you just shop in that store, you're doing a lot better than if you shop at a typical conventional grocery store. And so at the very least, if that's the only change you can make, do that. And it doesn't always have to be more expensive. I mean, I find sometimes that those foods are cheaper than the conventional stores, depending on what I'm getting. So it just really depends on what it is you're looking for. But even to the point where, my son struggled with a lot of preservatives, and if he got preservatives, he got extremely hyper and unable to pay attention or focus. And so what we learned was that in some packaging, they can put preservatives on the packaging itself and not in the potato chips, and they don't have to put it in the label. So even if you're reading labels, this is getting complicated. They're sticking it in other ways, and that would affect him. And so we think we were doing okay, and then we realized no, they use preservatives in the packaging to keep everything fresh. So, but if you're buying organic potato chips, the chances of that happening, it's much less. Those tend to be safer options, not always, but tend to be, you're going to have less issues if you do that. And so, if that's the only change you can make, because you're too busy, you can't stop eating out or whatever, at the very least, get what you can, reduce where you can, right? And maybe buy more holistic skincare products and cleaning products, because those more natural cleaning products kick butt. They're amazing. They do a really good job.
They smell good.
And I think
What's that?
I was going to say for the glyphosate, just to make sure it's clear, because some people don't know this, just because it's non-GMO does not mean that it does not have glyphosate on the crop. It has to be certified organic now. So, and for a lot of people, they're like, but I can't afford everything certified organic. Okay, maybe you can't, but then talk to one of us. If they're not the right person, they'll get you to somebody else. There are things you can take to start pulling. You can even take it on the days you're eating those things to help mitigate the load of the glyphosate that you're getting.
Well, it's interesting. I totally agree with that, because food, especially nowadays, is so expensive. But at the same time, a lot of it's choice. You're spending your money in other places that, it is expendable, so I know a lot of people who they might smoke, or they get their coffees or whatever. Now we own a cafe shop, so don't stop shopping here. Get your coffee, darn it. No, but
don't give up your smoothie.
It's more important to get high quality fruits and vegetables and foods for your everyday and for your health, because it's what's going to sustain you and help you thrive. But a lot of times we do throw away money in ways that we aren't even conscious of. And if you have a choice to get higher quality food and to spend a little bit more on your food budget, I would do that. And skip some coffees every month, or going out to dinner, going out to eat adds up. There's a lot of different things that we do. So if there's a way to carve out more space in your budget by, shifting the way you're spending, I think it's really important.
Well, the other part of that, Jen, too, is it may be temporary, because when you're spending more money on nutrient dense foods, if you haven't been eating them, you're going to eat more. But as you go through the process of detoxing and eating those foods, and especially if you're repairing the cells and you're taking up the nutrients and you have the gut organism to process those nutrients, then you don't need as much food. Like I used to eat a 12 to 16 ounce steak. If I was going to have a steak, that's how much meat I ate. Now it's like 3 ounces. I'm full. I don't need that much. So yes, the cost of steaks have gone way up, but one steak will last me 2 or 3 days now. So I'm seeing that with clients who have gone through the program too, and have really changed their diets and been willing to do it. They all report the same thing. They feel like they're feeling their nutrition now. They don't feel hungry as much. And we're also helping people to stop being so dependent on glucose for food or energy, and get them more fat adapted. And once you do that, you can also really, you're not noshing on snacks all day, and they are expensive, especially.
Yeah. I was just going to say too, I know back before I became more aware of what real nutrition is, it was nothing to eat like a bowl of cereal with some milk, and just oatmeal, whatever. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that was just, I loved cereal, especially when it starts to get soggy in the bowl. It tasted so good. I don't know. It was very comfort food, but you'd be hungry within a half hour, an hour later, because it's all carb heavy and your body needs it to regulate. And, Yeah.
That's Chinese food. You eat it,
Oh
you eat stuff
gosh.
your face, and then you're like an hour later, you're still hungry.
Hungry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, eating, learning how to eat for your body and what's really nourishing your body, it's really important. So I think that's all really good conversation. Well, is there
I
anything?
wanted to,
Go ahead.
I wanted to share real quick, going back to the whole energy part of things. I use Reiki in all my facials, so I infuse them because sometimes people aren't really fully aware of what. So I kind of combine the two, and what has come up for me a lot is there's a lot of guilt association with self care. And that is one of the things that I really try to focus on when we do the beginning meditation and get them ready for their facial. And that shows up quite a bit is the guilt that they feel in taking and carving time out to take care of themselves. So this kind of trickles down into the eating, the self-care of the face, of the body itself. Can I come into the center and really look for ways to help myself be better? Because and that guilt of, oh, I'm going to spend too much money on myself, where but honestly, we all spend money in so many different places, so many different things, like what you guys were just talking about. So my goal is always to help release whatever blockage is within their energetic field, and offer. There's other services. There are other types of practitioners here that go deeper, than what I would do. And so that, I think, kind of encompasses the inner and outer beauty finally coming. There's like that tiny little rendezvous point where the inner and the outer have that perfect union. And so that's what I'm doing with them. But yeah, guilt is huge. It's such a big thing. And we already I think we were born with that guilty gene as moms, I guess. I don't know.
I was
We
just
live
going to
with that.
say that. Yeah,
Makes
because
sense.
when I really had to, my son and I, my oldest son and I, and my youngest son had health issues too, but my oldest son and I, we were the, we were the heavy hitters. We had all the stuff going on. And it was always a question of, do I buy this for myself or do I buy what he needs? And that was, on a tight budget, that was a big experience that we both had. So what I usually tried to do is something that we could both do together where it would not be as expensive. And, if we would have had all the money in the world, I could have done a whole lot and probably would have felt better earlier on a lot sooner. But you do what you can with where you're at and what your resources are. The point is that there are choices, there are options. And, a bag of potato chips, if you can't give up your potato chips, there are more holistic versions of potato chips out there. Go get those, or buy something that's going to be less toxic. If you can't go non-toxic, go less toxic. Do what you can to reduce the load, right?
Anything helps.
I think, yeah, I think it's, are we willing? I mean, that's a question that I got asked point blank. What are you willing to invest in to feel better? I'm tired of you coming and telling me you don't feel well. That was said to me. And
Wow.
you look at that, I'm like, oh, I do come in here and tell you I don't feel well, but I'm still on there at Starbucks. And then, I don't mean to it's okay to have a Starbucks once in a while, but when you're sick and you're not functional, it's not. So just because you're giving up things right now doesn't mean it has to be forever. Once you get your body functioning again, you can have some cheat days and things like that. So what we're talking about is not forever. And even with the finances, if you've only got a very limited amount to spend, there's something at Nourishing Journey that could help you, even if it's just a downstream detox for now. If you're eating a toxic diet, change one thing a week and find something to replace it with. Find something healthy that you love and put that in the place of the thing you feel like you can't give up. They say it takes about 30 days for your taste buds to change. So if you try something and it's not preferable, keep trying it just a little bit. And who knows? Because I will tell you, like when they told me I needed to drink beet juice, I'm like, y'all are crazy. Just kill me now. I am drinking beet juice. However, it tasted like dirt to me. Now, if I drink beet juice, I've got to put lemon or lime in it because it's so sweet. I can't, it's too sweet for me. So, as you start getting healthier, your taste will change and acclimate to, because your body knows what foods are good for it. It's not your body that's telling you, it's the organisms that are telling you you want those chips and the sugar and the stuff that feeds them, because it creates this very acidic gut and they thrive in that acid. And then here we all are like, I'm just going to go over here and drink this pH water. No, you're not. You're not going to change your acidity by drinking pH water and eating alkaline foods. You have to get the gut right so that those bacteria are not creating the acidity. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's not, and I will tell you, sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes you just have to do what you need to do to invest in your future, whether that is putting out money that you'd rather be spending on vacation, or, whether it's, the way I did it is I didn't beat myself up when I did something that I shouldn't have done if I realized it after the fact. But if I realized it before, when I reached for that thing that I knew I shouldn't have, and my brain went, I really shouldn't, that's the moment of, am I investing in my health in the future, or am I investing in my illness in the future? And so when those moments come more for me over and over, like the more it's almost like a self-rewarding system. Like, even though I don't get it, later I feel like I've done the right thing for myself. So I've rewarded myself by doing what I know I need to do. And that is an investment, and that creates less stress, because when I do it and then I feel guilty, then I feel more stress, and that's more toxin. So it's interesting how this whole cycle of what the choices we make impact us going forward.
Well, and I think there's like a level of self-sabotage there. I think a lot of times we just do it. And sometimes it is a little microbes and things within us that are, steering us in a direction. Other times it's deeper, and we really do need to address those things. And if
You
you're
mean
not,
like, I had a bad day, so I'm going to have 6 bowls of ice cream tonight?
yes, like that kind of thing.
I've never done that.
Me either.
Never did either, right?
Never.
So that's why the mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic aspect of all this is always, no matter what we're talking about, it's always important, because we usually have underlying factors involved that are unhealed or unaddressed or just distorted. And we need to work on those so that our choices can really help us, and that we are aligned with the choices that will help us. Because, you can, go out to happy hour every day, or you can make a choice to do something that's better for you, right? And we all have to figure out what that is for us and what's holding us back. But I also really, truly believe that we're here for that spiritual journey to figure out the process and to work through that process. And so whatever it is we're dealing with, whatever challenge it is, that's a part of it. Right? Wouldn't you guys say that when you've gone through stuff like this, that you grew tremendously when you kind of fought those inner battles and demons or whatever they were, and you inched forward and became the hero of your situation, right?
Yes. Amen. You helped me with that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. That's what we're here for. So, all right, guys, unless you have anything else to say, anything else you want to say to everybody? Go ahead.
I just have one more. So anybody who would like to know what their toxicity score is, there's 3 tests that we do, but they can be done separately. You don't have to do all 3. So you can reach out to me at Seagoat Cellular Detox at nourishingjourney.com. Or is it NJ Seagoat? NJ. I've got it completely backwards. NJC Goat, yes, SEAGOAT Cellular Detox at gmail.com.
Yes.
Boy, I hardly ever say that. I always type it. It's like it's in my fingers. It's not in my brain.
Yeah. No worries.
Well, good. I guess we should say where you can find us, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I also put it in the description. But go ahead.
Okay, great. So you can find me here at this at the Nourishing Journey, or you can find me at the divinefeminineaesthetics.com, and all my information is there. You can follow me on Instagram, and that's where I have all my information. And you can, wherever you're going to put our information, feel to ask anything that you would like. Definitely. Excellent.
And what about you, Dolores?
You can find me right here at Nourishing Journey. I do not have a website yet, but my email is nacloftheearthiv@gmail.com.
Excellent. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you find everything you need to move forward and live your best life. All right. Bye.
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 Thank you.